But when you talk about capital, capital comes in many forms.
Yes.
We all understand it
Yes.
as financial capital, as
Yes.
money, as
Yes.
financing, as
Yes.
equity.
Yes.
However, there are many other types of capital. You know, human capital,
Relational capital.
relational capital, political capital.
Yes.
Do I want to put my resources to bear to solve this problem? But most importantly, what's come up over the last few years is environmental capital. And environmental capital is typically not discussed. When you look at historically, in order to make a profit, many companies did it at the expense of the environment.
Correct.
And today I would argue that's not necessarily the case anymore. Since I'm a real estate developer, I'm typically accused of taking beautiful habitat, waterfront property, wildlife, fauna, and turning it into impervious surface for profit. On a trip to Yellowstone with my family, we were able to see the majesty of the land and the ecosystem. And I learned a story that was just fascinating. The ecological balance of the park was off. And the park started to die. So counterintuitive to common sense, the park rangers introduced 40 wolves into the park. That doesn't make sense, right? Why would you introduce predators
into the clock?
Well, the introduction of those wolves, they were able to the wildlife that was overeating the vegetation and making it unstable. Those animals decided to stay away from the wolves. As a result of that, the wildlife came back, the fish came back, the trees, and the fauna came back. And it created this perfect balance, this perfect ecological and environmental balance to restore the park. The park is approximately 2.4 million acres.
Wow.
What I've come to learn is developers like myself, we lose about 6,000 acres of open space a day to real estate developers, which equates to the size of Yellowstone National Park every year. And conservation of this land, protection, the biggest protection we have to climate change and global warming is to protect our national resources. And Congress understood that. The problem is it's financially expensive to buy land in order to preserve it.
Got it.
So Congress passed laws approximately 40 years ago, trying to shift the financial burden of conservation from the federal government to that of the private landowner. In 2017, the US government spent $184 million in conservation efforts to acquire land to conserve. In 2018, the Department of Interior reduced that number to $54 million. In the proposed budget for 2019 that hasn't been ratified yet, they're looking at $8 million towards conservation efforts. Until for-profit enterprise, until developers consider protecting land rather than destroying land, habitat is going to get pushed further and further out. So where is conservation needed most? It's needed in areas of high development. And since that's where we make the bulk of our profits, we have a home builder in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, right on the intercoastal. We'll probably build over 300 homes this year for profit. So in areas like that, where we make our biggest money in resort development, that's the areas of critical concern. So what we've been able to achieve is that we figured out by building less and conserving more, that balance creates a combination for the real estate investors of income, growth, and tax, and the net value is all of this acres of land that gets preserved and not turned into impervious surface. Take it a little further, I'll give you a specific example. In this area of Myrtle Beach, we've removed approximately 20,000 development units permanently from ever being developed. These 20,000 units will never be built. So common sense says, wouldn't the county or the municipality be angry because they're losing their tax base?
Correct.
And this is where it's counterintuitive, but it's true. If you look at the economics of this, by removing those 20,000 acres that are 20,000 units, not acres, that are guaranteed to be developed on the intercoastal, on the waterfront, you've created additional value of the remaining development units, so much so that the tax base has remained relatively neutral, in fact, is also growing. So they're not losing anything.
Exactly like you talk about the ecosystem. It's balanced, right? It feels you are leaving money on the table,
but it's not.
But it's not.
The opposite.
It's the opposite.
It is the complete
opposite. It's like you are doing the right thing and you make more.
Absolutely.
Right.
And if you treat your business like an ecosystem, that it has to be naturally evolving and has to occur in real time, you can actually do things that you wouldn't have looked at through the traditional lens. So by removing those 20,000 units, an incredible thing happened. The way development occurs is a municipality has to investment spend in order to bring water, sewer, resources, and they expect to get that money back in the form of excise taxes, tap fees, etc. The problem is it never happens that way. The municipality always investment spends and never quite gets it back. There's a hope there. In this case, by removing those 20,000 units, what that really means is 40,000 toilets don't flush on a daily basis. 20,000 kitchens don't cook. The fire department, the police department, the health care needs of those 20,000 units do not have to take place.
Right.
The cost on the landfill side of the waste that's generated doesn't occur. So not only does the tax base remain constant or improve, the costs associated are reduced dramatically. And we could make as much money, or not as much money, but a fair profit in building less more often than trying to build these programs.
And try to maximize every square footage,
every square inch for
amazing.
Profit.
That's amazing.
So we've been able to combine income growth and tax into a manner that we
and I think that's also a great selling point when you communicate the message to the public that this is the way that you build, right? And people would associate, okay, Ecovest, that's what they do, and the way they build, they're not going to destroy the environment.
That's right.
Right? They have values and principles, right?
Absolutely.
I think it's a very powerful, just from a marketing point of view, right?
Thank you. I mean, we're really proud of this. And today, I'll call myself an environmental capitalist.
Yes, I love that.
I want to make money. Like as I told you earlier, I grew up poor.
But it's like it's the right thing to do. It's the smart thing to do.
Well, there's no reason you can't do the right thing and make money. And by paying attention, using energy efficient materials, trying to lay out your projects in a more efficient manner, there's no reason not to do it. The fear of doing it is you'll lose money. I'm here to tell you, we've proven that you can do it and you can make money.
I think that's the message for really this conversation. It's doing the right thing and make money and finish things, right?
Absolutely.
Finish things. Alan, appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you for the tour. I appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Awesome.
It was terrific.